Hello. Where am I? There I am. First of all, the pig plays classic rock. Okay. Of course. And suggestion for the hardcore PvP. Basically, you could have a choice to play for your character, like if he loses, he won't die, or you could have them play for each other's gear. And my question is, what are you doing for the individuality of the characters? Like, there was a lot of Paladins with Shaco and Enigma and D2, and is that going to happen again?
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a ton of stuff for individuality. One of the big ones that we're really excited about is we've put in a whole dye system. I think we have 16 different colors, and pretty much almost everything you can wear can be dyed. Every class has at least 3 class-specific items they can wear, 2 of which actually affect the visual look, and then there's hundreds of, on top of just the normal kind of weapon and item art, there's hundreds of unique items that are each have kind of their own unique art, many of which are designed to be very memorable, kind of legendary and unique items like your Wind Forces and your Ring of the Zodiac and Enigmas and things like that, although nothing as game-breaking as Enigma.
And not to mention the banner system, which also is a great way for you to show off all of your progress through the game and your achievements to your friends, and you can customize that with different dyes and different banner emblems as well.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I actually have a question and a follow-up question. The first question is the PvP system in Diablo 3. I started Diablo 2 back in around 2000. The last 3 years, or the last 6-7 years of my Diablo 2 career were leading a major PvP clan on East. And the arena is just, it's kind of similar to the 09 PvP without the Enigmas and the 16, 17, 18 different viable PvP builds for characters. Are you planning on releasing anything like Enigma or the synergy system that actually allowed the many different PvP balances that Diablo 2 had?
Well, I guess I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but I guess my answer would be, if you're looking at the PvP here and thinking, going into PvP, I go in with these pre-made locked builds, that's not how it works. Like, we have to put builds into the game here so that people don't spend, 30 minutes. They're 30 minutes basically just building a character. So we just kind of give you a pre-built build. But when you take a character into PvP in Diablo 3, it's your single-player character. So it has all the build options, and we have calculated it somewhere in the area of 2.8 trillion different builds. So there's definitely a massive number of potential ways you can build characters. And then you take on top of that, since it's team-based game, the combination of different characters and then the combinations of their abilities with one another create an enormous number of variations. So I think that is an answer to your question.
The second question was, the PvP arena is, I know where you do the PvP, but are you going to allow any kind of dueling outside of the arena where there's big open fields?
Well, like I said earlier, we don't have a way to do that now, and we're not going to allow people to go hostile within the core game, but I would like people to be able to do kind of free-form dueling, and whether we can get that in for ship or not, we're not sure at this time, but it's definitely something we want to do.
Thank you.
I spent a lot of money on my computer. I'm just curious for the lighting effects. I know other games are having that in there with Diablo 3.
I'm sorry, I missed the last.
Can you repeat the question?
Such as alien effects for lighting for computers. Is there going to be a type of support for that?
Are you talking about having the case itself light up, like an actual mod
Right,
for
kind of
a
like
case?
Dungeon Siege, where the lighting would change according to your life, mana, etc.
Oh, I wouldn't rule it out, but we have not done any work on something like that.
Thank you.
As we move through normal through Inferno, will the randomized dungeons be getting larger in size?
We don't currently have plans to do something like that, so I don't think that'll be shipping with the base version of the game. That's an interesting idea, and we have talked about it, so possibly in the future, but not for the initial game.
Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I came out from Guam, and this is my first Blizzcon, and it's awesome. So thank you for all of this.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, brother.
And
Thank you.
My question is, what are your guys' thoughts on class skills that combo off of each other, like aiming a disintegrate at a monk while he's using impenetrable defense to make it bounce off in a different direction?
So we've talked about ideas like that in the past, and what we find is that people latch on to one or two that they really love, like, oh, the wizard freezes somebody, and then the demon hunter smashes it with a particular skill, or the barbarian does, and that does more damage, or the rebound one has come up a couple times. And then when you sit down and go, okay, let's do this across all the classes and all the skills, such that in a way that it won't force people to have to take certain builds. We don't ever want a case where a barbarian enters and goes, oh, you're a wizard and you don't have Frost Nova? Okay, I don't want to play with you because I won't be able to do more damage. So when we try to come up with just ways to do that across the whole game, we find that there's not a lot of meat there for systems like that. And that at the end, we think it would actually have more negative connotations than positive ones. It's a great kind of fantasy, but we've never figured out a way to do it in a way that we didn't think would actually hurt the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, is there going to be a web front end or API for the auction hall or your character at launch?
We talked about it, but not. We don't have plans to do it at launch, but we have talked about adding functionality on the website.
Thank you. We're coming down to 5 minutes, so just enough time to get a few more of you in.
All right. Well, my question is, if you beat Diablo 2 on normal or hardcore, will you get a bonus item? And my second question is, do you guys have any idea if you guys are going to implement a PC controller into Diablo 3?
No, we don't have any plans to do any kind of bonus items for having completed the previous games, although it's not a bad idea. The other one was like using a console-style controller with the PC game?
No, just a normal PC controller that you can buy at Walmart, not like the Xbox or the PS3 controller.
Yeah, like a gamepad, you mean? Not at release. We might, as the console version continues, I'm sure we'll at least consider it and look into it, but there's a lot of controls problems to fix. And as I mentioned earlier, doing multiple control schemes is a pretty big challenge. So I think we'd only do it if we could pull learning over from our console development. But initially, no, we don't plan to support that.
Thank you.
Hey, my question is actually a fairly simple one, but one that kind of worries me because I haven't heard any official word on it, and it could be particularly detrimental to the new experimental builds, or the more experimental builds that you guys want to take with classes. So are you actually able to switch around runes after you apply them to a certain ability? And if you can, what happens to the runes afterwards? Does said rune just go back in your inventory, or is it destroyed and you'll have to trek around for a new one?
Every system we've done, you can remove runes kind of freely. We may put the same kind of restrictions on switching that we're currently experimenting with on the skill system to, again, give more build commitment. It's really important to us that when people go out into the world, they feel like they're committed to a very specific build because that's where a lot of the interest in creating your character comes from. But once you go back to town, we don't really see any need to put this big cost and like you pull a rune out and you destroy it, or we don't let you switch things out. Like experimentation is part of the fun of Diablo, so we've taken a philosophy of let people do it as much as we can possibly allow.
Thank you. On it.
Hi, I was wondering if for the players who are buying the 12 months of WoW and they get the D3 for free, is there going to be an option for them to get the collector's edition as well, or have you discussed this?
Awesome. That's a great question. We totally talked about it. We know that there's a lot of people that they're basically going to want the collector's edition specifically, so absolutely. In fact, what's going to happen is if you buy the collector's edition, it's going to count as a credit towards that 12 months purchase.
Wow, great question. We okay for one more?
Well done, Rob.
Thank you. That's a good one to end it on.
I think I'm being told we can do one more. So
Yeah. Hi, in WoW, there's always like a top tier of gear. In Diablo, how many options are people going to have once they reach like the very end game content as far as gear goes?
Well, it's hard to give a specific number because our gear is randomly generated. So in Inferno, there's 3 kind of tiers of gear, and there definitely is like a best-in-class tier. But even a tier down, if you get the right rolls, can be as good or better than the tier up. So it kind of depends upon how the item rolls and what kind of, and what specifically you're looking for. And WoW, a lot of the times, if you're a particular class, there's usually not a lot of variation in the kind of stats that you're looking for. It only really varies by the kind of activities you're doing. Whereas in Diablo, depending on how you build your character and what skills you choose and what your playstyle is, there's a really much broader array of items that you can possibly be interested in. So you could pick up an item that for somebody else is one of the best items in the game, but for you is, even though it's something you could wear and has good stats, you're not interested because maybe you're not interested in a crit gear or whatever particular affixes are there.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Everybody give them a round of applause.